What's up, guys? Welcome to another podcast by Life is Hyro, where I talk to different fitness professionals, medical professionals, and anybody somewhat that can help the combat sports arena. So today I get to talk to Mr. Dr. Will Adams from Miami Spine and
Performance. Nailed it.
Yeah, people have a tendency to mess it up. I literally have, if it's not saved on my Google search, it's like all I do is type Miami Spine, and then I'm like, oh, that's right, it's performance.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit about you. I know a little bit about you, but I think it comes better from coming from you.
Sure. So like Hyro said, I'm Dr. Will Adams. I'm a chiropractor by trade. So I moved down to South Florida in 2019, opened up my practice, as Hyro said, Miami Spine and Performance. I'm not a, I guess, traditional chiropractor that you kind of come in, get adjusted. God. Yeah, do that kind of thing, chase the car accidents around. I really kind of take, I take things from different systems, right? So I think you initially found me through something called FRC, Functional Range Conditioning. Right. So I'm a super nerd, super into continuing education. So my practice is kind of a combination of, physical therapy, rehabilitation, soft tissue, chiropractic adjustments. So I think that practice style lends itself to, sports and martial arts in particular, because not every martial arts injury is a joint injury. Sometimes they need rehab and things like that. So it's a pretty cool integrated practice, and it's been going really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally true. I've heard from other people how much of a proactive learner you are. That you're even in college. Like, what's his name? John's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying he's like, Will's always been like that.
Yeah.
He's like everybody else would be out like having drinks or whatever, and Will would be in the dorm still studying.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was.
Time wired. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just finished becoming an acupuncturist as well. Or are you still going to school for that?
I'm working on acupuncture. But my big project right now is I'm finishing my PhD from University of Miami.
Okay.
So I'm doing a biomechanics PhD.
Nice.
Which is super cool because it kind of gives me access to the people that are smartest in that field, but kind of from a book smart standpoint. So like the people that understand research and things like that. So I'm trying to take all that research that's kind of tucked away in academia and apply it to clinical practice, or apply it to the gym and things like that. So that's been kind of the exciting thing going on for me the last few years.
Where are you from originally? I don't actually know that.
Chicago, Illinois.
So you're born and raised in Chicago?
I was born in New York, did a little stint in New York for like a year or two, and then I was in Chicago for most of my life.
Now, how'd you end up down here?
Well, I went to University of Miami for college, and then I went to chiropractic school in Chicago, and I couldn't wait to get back to Miami. As soon as I got here, and when I was 18, I knew that this is where I wanted to be.
Miami has that effect on a lot of people.
Yeah, it sucked me in, just like it sucks many people in. But it sucked me in for good reasons. So, I feel like I fit in here, and I love the melting pot that it is Miami.
So why? I mean, obviously, you're like you were saying, you went through like a full spectrum. You're trying to do the biomechanics. Why did you start with the chiropractic thing? Because it's like a chiropractic profession has this weird. It has this weird dichotomy. It's like almost like huckster type of thing, and then there's people that like swear by it.
Yeah.
It's either or. It's either like, okay, I feel like they're just taking money from me, and then there's the guys that are like, I fucking swear by it.
Yeah.
Like so obviously if you're a hyper intelligent dude, it's like why did you choose chiropractic first?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, there's a bit of a cloud over the profession. Like you never, when you meet a chiropractor, you never know what kind of chiropractor it is. Like you said, there's some that are extremely talented and amazing, and there's some that are, maybe out for money or other reasons. I love when people come into my office and, or I'll meet somebody at a social function, and I'll say I'm a chiropractor, and they'll be, oh, that's awesome. I believe in chiropractic. I'm a big believer. It's a belief system, like a religion or something like that. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but so when I finished college, I became a strength and conditioning coach. So I went straight from college to do strength and conditioning, sports performance, because what I wanted to do was understand what makes the best athletes in the world, the best in the world, and then how to make them even better, right? That was my vision of what strength and conditioning was. Like, I'm going to go, I was at Stanford University, the best athletes in the world, and I said, okay, I'm going to take these world-class athletes, and I'm going to make them 5% better so they get an Olympic gold. But the collegiate strength and conditioning world, which we were just talking about off air, it's a little different than that. you're a little bit of a cheerleader, and it's a lot of management. It's not as sciencey as sort of I thought. So.
Yeah, I found, and I don't know anything about that world, but from my understanding, it's also very like regimented on like a protocol. Like there's no sense of creativity for the individual that's in front of you. So in other words, it's like if you're managing a team or whatever it is, it's like it's for the team. It's not for like this guy who is able to do this and this guy's built slightly different. And even though the framework is should be the same, it's like this person is 6'4" and this person might be 5'8". Yeah. There's going to be some mechanical differences with that person. So even though the foundation is the same, but you should treat them kind of different. From my understanding, they don't allow you to do that. It's more like this is what we know somewhat scientifically, and the guy that's in charge says this is the protocol that we got to follow, whether they're, like I said, 6'8" or if they're 5'8". It doesn't really matter, which to me sounds crazy.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, the reality is, for example, at Stanford, there's like over 50 varsity teams, and there was like 8 coaches. So you do the math. We've all got a lot of athletes to manage. These are student athletes that have a lot of other things going on, and we're all sharing one weight room. So then all of a sudden it becomes all about efficiency. It's not about building the best athletes. It's not about optimizing anything. It's about optimizing the schedule and making sure the students can. So half the time it's like, all right, we got men's basketball, we got X team, Y team. Okay, you've got the swimming team. You guys got to go in the corner and do something with the med balls. So you're just kind of, you can be creative, but not the kind of creative you want to be. It's like creative, like make something out of nothing.
Right.
So anyways, I got that experience, and it was great, but I realized that it's not what I wanted to do. I got hands-on experience. And then I had a chiropractor growing up. Shout out Jason Van Ness in Barrington, Illinois. The thing about him was like, it just seemed like he loved his job. Like you go to his office, he's blasting cool music, he's in great shape, his patients are all happy to be there, the energy's good, it's hands-on. So I said, what the heck? This guy seems really happy. He's got a family. He's involved in the community. So I kind of just decided to go to chiropractic school, and then from there I nerded out like I normally do, and have been trying to become the best chiropractor that I can, and represent the profession the best that I can.
Yeah, and that's the thing with, like I said, the chiropractor is like the reason why I was attracted to you and what you do was because, like you were saying earlier, is that you do. It's not about the actual chiropractic aspect. It's like, okay, what's wrong with you? And then go, that doesn't seem to be working right here. Are you doing this and X, Y, Z? So you do a little bit more like genuine diagnostic, like holistic work to some aspect. Because I've gone to other chiropractors before, and what they do is do an X-ray, and like I don't think we ever did that. It's more like, do you need it? Like I don't think you need it. Like and I felt like. You can tell that a lot of them have a tendency to just get like, this is like just the general protocol for like the package, I guess you can say. It's like, this is the package and you got to follow the package. And then once you're done with the package, it's like, okay, now I can adjust you and stuff like that. Like when I was having issues with my hip, I don't think we did an actual adjustment for like almost a few months. It was something, and I kind of told you that I was like, I'm not too keen on chiropractic. Anyway, so then you went the chiropractic route, and how was that? Explain to me what chiropractic school is like.
Yeah, so chiropractic school, it's 4 years, so it's the same as like medical school minus the residency.
Okay.
You do 2.5 years of kind of just rigorous academic work and 1.5 years of internship, clinic, patients. But I was super fortunate because I had a close group of friends in chiropractic school that were just like me. Like we didn't want to just pass school. Like we wanted to become great chiropractors. So we were, me, Jake Alec is another guy, Alec Pain to Performance in Illinois. Like we were like skipping biology class and shadowing the best people in Chicago. Like him and I were flying to Ohio, we were flying to California, to Oregon, to just hang out. Like who are the best in the world? Like who are the best in the world in the PT space and the chiro space? And so I spent chiropractic school passing my classes and flying around the country, spending the only money that I had to, sleep in some guy's couch and shadow him and just sit in the corner of his office and observe. And to me, that's what I felt gave me a bit of a head start to open my own practice out of school. It wasn't school per se; it was the mentors along the way.
Yeah, that you saw like the actual practical application of what you're learning in school, because that's really that's the hardest part, to be honest with you. So you can be book smart, but if you don't know how to like apply it in the real world, it's like
Yeah, yeah. And people wait until, you know, they say, well, right now I'm going to focus on my schoolwork, and then when I get out is when I'm going to learn the real stuff. Well, by the time you get, like, I wanted to be good by the time I got out, you know? So I was like, why wait, you know? I'll go to class during the day, and in the evening I'll drive downtown and spend 3 hours with this guy who's, you know, considered the best in the city.
So I'm kind of curious on the school part. Like, what was because chiropractic is all about the spine. So it's like,
Yeah.
was that like the blunt of what you learned, or you learned like just the whole body, and then on the tail end of it, you go, okay, now we're going to focus the last year on the spine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, like, so chiropractic has a different scope of practice around the country. So like, if you're out west, you can do like minor surgeries, you can prescribe medications in some states. So you get
really?
like, yeah.
I
So
didn't know
you
that.
get like a very broad education, like a medical education, like for the first year and a half, where it's like you're learning anatomy, physiology, cardiology, pulmonology. So you get like a full like medical education. Then they start to kind of narrow in on the orthopedics a little bit, narrow in on neurology. But that's part of the problem is that our education was very broad, so we have good background, but we didn't get, you know, we didn't get this how to treat low back pain until we were like 2.5 years into school. And now it's like, okay, so now here's what your day-to-day is actually going to look like.
Right.
So that's why I felt it was also important to like get out and see like what does a day in the chiropractor's life look like, you know, because in class I'm learning about, you know, whatever diseases and things that I just don't feel like I'm going to be treating. You know, I'm not going to be a cancer doctor, I'm not going to be a cardiologist, and I'm reading EKGs, but I wanted to see what the real people were doing. So,
And what did you get out of it? You said the real people. What was the real people teaching you?
so you know, when you spend a lot of time around people in the profession, you see what you want, and you also see the things that you don't want. So I was looking, you know, I learned a lot of clinical pearls as far as like hands-on techniques, rehab techniques, but I also picked up on people skills, you know, that I think you don't think about. But you know, I'm not really I'm in the people business, but I do chiropractic. You know, like I see patients one-on-one, and it's in order for me to treat somebody, I need to like connect with them. I need to be able to educate them.
Yeah, they gotta like you.
They gotta trust me. Yeah. So what I realized was like, you know, these people had great skills, and they did the simple things extremely well. Like you go shadow, you know, Brett Winchester, for example. This guy's considered the best chiropractor in the world. People fly in to see him, and I've spent 100 hours with him.
Dope.
He does simple stuff at a world-class level all day. Like that's it. And he has a great personality. He's charismatic. He's a good educator. But he's not doing anything that's not out there that you don't, you know. He doesn't have a secret, you know, laser. He's got great hands. He's got a great personality, and he does simple things well. And his diagnosis and evaluation is second to none, right? If you get the diagnosis right, the treatment is kind of easy.
Yeah, just follow the steps.
Yeah, so that's really what I learned is, you know, take the time early, evaluate, get to know the person, understand their goals, and then the treatment. You can plug in whatever, you know, if you're an FRC person, you're an ART person, that's not as important.
Yeah, it's just like you said, you just diagnose and then just follow the steps if you have the book know how and go from there. So it's the same thing that they say about everything, just the KISS method, you know, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah,
You
get
know,
out of your own way,
yeah.
you know, that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, you gotta the fundamentals. Even in fighting, it's like the jiu-jitsu, it's like fundamentals. Striking is the same way. It's fundamentals. You can get fancy if you want to, but it's not necessary as long as you keep the fundamentals there. So after you did chiropractic school, then what? Then you opened your practice.
Yeah, I walked across the stage and hopped on a plane to Miami and opened up my practice.
Like that, just like that.
Yeah, like 45 days after I graduated, the practice was open. And,
Damn.
hit the ground running, and you know, the first, like I wasn't really connected in South Florida at that time. You know, I have my dad here. I had some leftover college friends, but this wasn't like me opening in Chicago where you know, so and so's brother, so and so's aunt come in. So I just like started going to every single event that was like in South, like every yoga thing, every marathon, every networking thing, which was like all out of my comfort zone because I'm more of like a read a book nerd, don't like to go to these things type of person. But I got out of my comfort zone. I met a lot of people, and fortunately I was able to build like just enough like practice, you know, build my practice just enough for when COVID hit, you know, 9 months in, that we were able to float through COVID okay, and then it kind of just took off from there. But my jiu-jitsu school, for example, was a really important part of my early, like my first 3 or 4 patients were like training partners. So that was helpful.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of guys that I know that go see you. Like
Yeah.
you deal with a lot of the guys from Winners.
Yeah.
You know, now the Gracie Baja places. You're still training there though, right?
Gracie Baja?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aventura.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it. You were doing stuff with Goat Shed too as well.
Yep.
Yeah, with Asim and those crazy cats over there.
Yeah.
He's actually having some success now. One of his fighters was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Is that right?
Yeah, and gave a shout out to Goat Shed, and now all of a sudden Goat Shed's ads are like now kind of popping up on my feed on social media.
He's the kind of, like, it was just a matter of time till he was gonna be successful. You know?
Yeah, you know the backstory on him a little bit. I knew him. He was a black belt underneath Valente Brothers, and I
Yeah.
used to train there when he was like a kid. He was like 15, 16. But apparently the Valente Brothers. And again, this is rumor, so I don't know like
I
the
kind of
actual
know the story,
details.
so I can verify.
Yeah, apparently, they were trying to keep him from stepping out of the Gracie way,
Yeah.
and he wanted to be an MMA fighter, and they just kept resisting it, and until it kind of got to a point where they ended up fighting,
Yeah.
and then he went off to doing his own thing, and it's crazy how it's almost like you live in a Catholic household, and then you get out of the Catholic household. And you go and you become like a drug addict, drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? It's like so off from the Valente brothers, where they're all like very proper. This is the fundamental, their vow, the whole 9 yards. And Goat Shed is just a bunch of crazy MMA guys trying to murder each other.
Dude, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a fun place though, and the thing I'll say about him is, like, you see things on social media and you think like, okay, this is a crazy gym. It's the inmates run the asylum, but his martial arts knowledge is some of the best that I've ever seen.
bro.
And I've been around great people. Like he's a genius at martial arts.
Yeah.
He really is.
Well, dude, I remember when he was 15, maybe 16.
Yeah.
Dude, his jiu-jitsu was on point.
Yeah.
At 15, 16 years old, he just was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize it, but he went and trained with Dinaher up in
Yep.
Hanzo. He trained with Aziz
Faraz Zahabi.
Yeah, with the GSP,
Gary Tonin.
Yeah. So I think he started going to like wrestling camps as well.
Yeah.
And competing with like a lot of the college athlete wrestlers. So he's well knowledgeable.
Yeah, he can hang with everyone at that gym. I've seen him jump in, and he can hang with all those guys.
Yeah. And then he shifted. I guess I don't know if he got to a point that, I don't know if it was an age thing. I'm not sure, because now he's pushing like 30 now, right? I think he's like 30-ish.
He's in his early 30s.
Yeah.
33.
And now this Goat Shed thing is gonna catapult him. Actually, one of the black belts that teaches at my school, his son is Unbroken Roy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Roy Echeverria.
Yeah, yeah.
Talented kid, very talented.
Yeah. I've never met him, but he's a tiny dude. He's a flyweight, right?
Yeah.
Which is 125, so
Yeah.
tiny little dude.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, he's excellent. I was there. I trained with him. He was there. Yeah.
Dude, by the way, I didn't know you did striking. How long did you do striking for?
I started Muay Thai like in 2015, 2016. And that was so I did that for a few years, and that was my segue into jiu-jitsu. But I still train Muay Thai, and I love it. I just love martial arts in general.
Yeah, me too. I like beating people up. It's fun.
There's something about it that just.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. We got to start striking, because I haven't done striking in a while. I'm at an age now where I kind of compare it to riding a bike. Like, you know how to ride a bike, but if it's been long enough that you haven't ridden a bike, when you first get on the bike, like you're scared of falling. Like there's a fear that you're like, oh God, and then it takes about like 5 or 10 minutes, and you're like, okay, I'm comfortable. Oh, okay, don't forget, you know how to ride a bike.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing with striking. I haven't done it in so long that like there's just a tiny little fear of getting punched in the face, and I'm like, man, I got to start striking again, because the only way you get over it is by getting punched in the face and understanding distance and timing and stuff like that, so that you're just not afraid of getting kicked or punched. But the only way you get over that is just by actually doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm still afraid to get punched in the face, even though I've been striking for that long. That's
because you're pretty, bro. That's because you're pretty. You're afraid of breaking a pretty face.
Yeah. It's healthy to. If the fear of being punched in the face is what will make you a good striker.
Yeah, I was a little bit like Forrest Griffin when I was doing striking. Like I had this thing where it was like I didn't want to get punched in the face, obviously, but it would animate me. Like it was almost like a warm up for me.
Yeah. Because
it's like someone kind of hits me, and it was just like, that's it.
Yeah.
And now I know that I can move forward like fearlessly, because it's like once I get tapped and that's it. It's like when you're rolling with someone with jiu-jitsu that's like super strong, and then you think they're super strong, and then all of a sudden they grab you, and you're like, and you're like able to like break their grips very easily, or you're able to pick them up and throw them, you're like, yeah, you're on the losing end of this. It's the same concept, at least for me. That's how it was for me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I can see that. Yeah.
All right, let's circle back. So you opened up your practice, and then you decided to continue educating yourself. So you're becoming a biomechanics PhD. At the same time, you're doing the acupuncture, or you kind of put the acupuncture on hold?
Acupuncture, I was an acupuncturist in Illinois when I was in school, and when I had graduated, like I had the acupuncture license. Florida has like an additional exam that I've been putting off now for a long time. But my intention is to take it. I keep putting it off because then I started the PhD, and I, with my practice, I kind of like wear all the hats in my office.
Right.
So I just don't have the bandwidth right now to do it, but I'd love to incorporate dry needling. That's the reason why I want to do acupuncture. But the PhD program I started in the fall of 2021, and so I'm at my alma mater. So I'm teaching in the program, and I've gotten the opportunity to publish research now, which has always been a goal of mine. I always intended to go back and get my PhD, but I wanted to get some practice experience first. I never wanted to be the person that is like speaking at a conference about low back pain, and I've never had a patient in front of me that is paying me to treat their low back pain, because it's different to recite research or say XYZ, and it's another thing when someone's in your office and they're like, hey, I can't pick up my kid because of my back pain, like help me.
Right.
So it's a different thing. So I want to have both.
That seems to happen a lot, actually. There's a friend of mine that's a sports massage therapist, but he's an educator as well. And he was saying that seems to be, like, he's one of the few people that is not only an educator, but he's actually a practitioner.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of a disconnect that once you, again, it goes back to like book smart compared to like reality, like the real world.
Yeah.
And he was saying that's a lot of one of the reasons why I think he's doing so well just recently is because, he actually works on people. So he comes from a place of like, this is what I see in my clients. This is what you're going to run into this. You're going to run into this. This is why you run into this. And he kind of backs it up with like the science part of it. But really it's more like, hey, this is actual practical application stuff instead of just kind of like, hey, this is what the book says and you should do this type of thing.
Yeah. It's a bit different because people will say, the best way to do this is this way, or the research says this or this. And I appreciate the research and I appreciate the textbooks. But, when you go to work and you've got 20 people on your schedule with 20 different problems, and you're seeing them every 30 minutes, and they're coming in and they're not just bringing their problem, but they're bringing all the baggage of that week. You never know what you're going to get, or a new problem. You have to think on your feet, and you have to adapt. And just because not everybody wants FRC. FRC is effective. You were the right type of person to do FRC with, but people come in with all kinds of different backgrounds, so I'm not doing the same thing with everybody, and that's part of why I really wanted to get a full circle education so that I can provide what that person needs in that moment, and that's I think what makes a good clinician. That's what I'm striving to become, is to provide the patient what they need in that moment.
So what's the client then look like? So like imagine if there was like an imaginary client. What would you're trying to become like well-rounded, but like when you say well-rounded, like for what goal? In other words, like.
Yeah, well, when I started my practice, like I think most, guys going through chiropractic school, like I'm like, okay, I want to treat, especially being a martial artist, I want to treat UFC guys, jiu-jitsu guys, high-level athletes. But then you get into practice, and like, to build a practice, like you have to see like, grandma across the street, you gotta see the high school athlete, you gotta see the sedentary 45-year-old dad. And I've really like fallen in love with like treating a really broad range of patients, because it challenges me, it exposes me to different people. So, and it's just fun. 8 a.m. I'll have a UFC fighter, and 8:30 I'll have a 50-year-old woman who does Pilates 3 days a week, and then at 9 o'clock I'll have a high school baseball player. So I get to interact with a lot of different people and experience different people. So right now, if you said like, if you would have said 3 years ago, what's your niche? I would have said it's martial arts and it's athletes. But now I really think my practice is it's like a family practice. Some athletes and that kind of thing.
It's fun. It challenges you as more than anything else. You like being challenged. That's why you're a book nerd. And that's why you like being.
It keeps things interesting,
Yeah, otherwise it gets monotonous. You just, if I would think that if you're kind of helping the same style of person like every half hour all day long, at a certain point you're like, it gets monotonous. It's you're like, all right, I've seen this like 50,000 times.
Yeah,
it's like,
another jiu-jitsu guy with neck pain. Like, all right, like, there's a million of those out there, you know.
Well, the jiu-jitsu guys are stubborn, bro. When I teach that mobility class at Mario's, the only time that the guys show up is when they're fucking injured, or they're in pain. And I'm like, guys, this is. I mean, it's gonna help you. I appreciate you showing up, and what we're gonna do today is gonna help you. But you gotta kind of just come frequently, not only when you're hurt. But people don't understand that. You know, it's difficult to get that through the average person's like mind. You know, that's one of the reasons why I didn't go. I was contemplating going to medical. I was teaching for a personal training certification a while back, and there was a lady that was teaching with me, and she was an exercise physiologist, and she worked at Memorial West, and she's like, "Hey, you should come by." I was like, "All right, cool. I'll go check it out." Yeah. And so I went there. You know, she showed me the EKG and blah 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 blah, and these people on the treadmill, and then there's some older lady that was standing there, and she's like, "Oh, this lady just had a heart bypass and blah blah blah," and I was like, "Why does she smell like cigarettes?"
Oh, the doctor?
No, I said this to the doctor, and I was like, "Why does she smell like cigarettes?"
Oh.
And she's like, "Because she's still smoking." And I was like, in my mind, I was like, "Nah, I don't want to work with people that are fucking sick," because it's like, for me, you know, it was in my mind. I was just like I rather. That's why I went the kind of the fitness route, because in my mind it was just like I was like, all right, I'm gonna lean into this. Because it's like people, there's a little different. It's I guess you can say it's the same with the chiropractor, where it's like there's a genuine interest. They're coming out of pocket on their own.
Yeah.
So once you have like a little more skin in the game, where you're actually kind of investing in your actual healing process, you're a little bit more likely to stick to it. So you're a little bit more likely to follow directions.
Sure.
But when it's almost like obligation, she wasn't the only lady that was like that. And the doctor was like, she's like, "Yeah, that guy just finished that. He doesn't want to stop drinking." That one over there, I was like, what's the matter with people? You literally just almost died. And they're telling you, stop smoking because you're going to fucking kill yourself. Yeah. And they go, "Oh, yeah. And they go right outside and smoke a cigarette. Yeah. Oh, my God, bro, it's horrible.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. Yeah, you know, when you're in a profession like chiropractic, like it's people are coming there by choice. A lot of times they're paying out of pocket. So I think naturally you're attracting people that are like a little more proactive with their health, and that helps, right? You know, it's not just like the waiting room of a hospital. It's a place where people are coming to be proactive. But you know, that's another education point. Is, you know, the patients that come to my office, like they know, or at least they know within 15 minutes of coming to my, like I'm not the practice that I'm not the fanciest practice in the area. I'm not the one with the cool gadgets and the pretty front desk girl and things like that. Like you're coming there because I'm going to teach you how to heal yourself, basically, and that's what I educate my patients on. Like, yeah, I'm going to do the hands-on work, but like the only person who can really keep you healthy long-term is you, right? And the goal is always to be healthy long-term. So that's why I'm big on, you know, I'm giving them things to do at home, and I'm teaching them about their body. It's not just like, you know, only these can fix you, right? Because sometimes that's the model, right? You convince the person that, look, if you don't come in and get adjusted by me, your spine's never going to be straight. You're never going to be healthy. But I educate them like, look, I'm going to help you fix yourself. And a lot of times people appreciate that so much that they do continue to come back, or they refer because they like that approach. But it takes a lot of education to get there.
And that's good, though. It's good. You seem to be a part of that generation, because the two guys that you went to college with that I happen to know, the guy Cav and John, right? John. Yeah. The medical industry, the new generation of guys that are going to become doctors seem to be going down the holistic route to some aspect. Yeah. You know, and hopefully they don't get corrupted by the medical field, and that's the problem now. You know, it's just like I went to the doctor for a stomach issue that I was having, so I went to go to a GI, and I swear to God, you know, I'm in my 40s, so when I went there, you know, you got to go through the steps where you meet one person and then the next. So they're doing like the whole the questionnaire, and they're all asking me, like, "Hey, are you on any drugs?" I'm like, "No." "You sure?" Yeah. And I'm like, "No, I mean, I take ibuprofen every once in a while, but no, like blood pressure, nothing." I'm like, "No." And it was one behind the other and behind the other, behind the other. When I finally got to the doctor looked at me and was like, he literally, obviously they asked a question and he got to that question. And I guess I said no like several times. And he stone cold looked me in the face like I was lying.
Yeah.
Like you're not on anything? And I'm like, dude, like you guys keep asking me the same fucking question. No, I'm not taking any drugs. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, yeah, it's wild, man. That's why when you, at one point you were doing functional medicine at one point.
Yeah, I had another provider in the office doing that.
Yeah. And that to me is kind of, I think that's going to end up being like the future.
Gosh. Yeah.
I think that's going to end up, like, hopefully, you know, if we don't destroy our own country these days.
From what I see, there's just as many people with gut issues as there are people with back pain. Like it's like the next big like thing that needs to be taken care of. And at least from seeing the other provider in my office, like a good functional medicine provider, someone who knows how to do the testing and prescribe supplements is like invaluable. So I think you're right. I think that's the next probably big wave of medicine. And hopefully, I think maybe this is something Kevin is interested in, but you know, medical doctors can go that route as well. So then you can have maybe the chiropractors, the medical doctors, naturopaths.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Kev actually ended up changing his mind. I think he's going to do psychiatric, which is...
Oh, did he?
So how do you go from functional medicine to whatever? I mean, obviously and if you meet him and his demeanor, it totally makes sense. But at the time, I didn't put two and two together. When he finally said that, I was like, how do you go from that? And then I paused for a second. And I took a look at him and I was like, yeah. Your personality matches that type of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
For that profession, you got to have the right personality.
Yeah, it totally like that. But the whole gut thing is crazy. It's like, and it seems to be prevalent also in the jiu-jitsu community. This guy Gordon Ryan was having it. I know at least 2 or 3. Cav has an autoimmune issue that's gut related. I have something. Yeah. There's several people that I know. It seems to be kind of somewhat common.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is because of, you know, we're sweating on a mat, and so the bacteria gets passed around, so then antibiotics get overprescribed, and it kind of kills your gut flora. So if you combine that with, you know, jiu-jitsu doesn't have the best nutrition culture right now. It's more of like train hard, eat whatever you want. So kind of mix poor diet with overtraining with antibiotics, and you end up with the gut issues, yeah.
That's true. Well, mine is... I believe because my uncle has, because I have a psoriasis, my uncle has it too. So I did something in my lifestyle at one point that basically inflamed it and just turned that gene on. Yeah. And now I'm trying to turn it off, and it's getting better. But literally, when I went to go to the doctor then referred me to like a GI doctor, and the GI doctor looked at me straight in the face. He's like, dude, like we know stuff, but we really don't know stuff. He's like, because there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. He's like, we did the test and there's nothing wrong with you. He goes, so, and this is the crazy part. This is where I really have an issue with the medical industry to some aspect with that. He literally looked me in the face. He goes, look, because I work for the hospital, I can't tell you this. I can't prescribe this to you. He goes, but this is what you should do. And he wrote it down. He goes, go do this. Go do this. He goes, you could go do this test. He goes, but the test is going to cost you like $2,000. And he goes, and we still might not know anything. Right. He goes, go through this process first. He goes, what most likely happened, he goes, from what you're telling me and from the description that you have and everything, that he goes, what you can do is, he goes, you just somehow messed up the microbiome in your gut. He goes, you got to think about it, that you basically burn the forest down, and the forest needs to grow back. He goes, so just simplify your diet, try to do this route here, do this, and he goes, and you just have to give it time. And that was almost 2 years ago now, and it's only now getting back under control. I had to go down to like the most basic diet at one point.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrible at one point. So I remember asking you, because I wasn't sure, and I think it hadn't gotten to the point where it was over top. But I remember asking you like, hey man, would this hip thing affect my stomach? And you're like, and you looked at me like kind of like no. And then I was like, all right, because I'm having this discomfort. Yeah. And you're like, no, I don't think so. And it hadn't actually flared up, and then it flared up, and then I had to cut everything because I had a little bit of a scare. I was doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And that literally I almost passed out. It fucking spooked me, to be honest with you, because it was like literally like the doors were closing, the lights were kind of closing out. It was spooky. It was after we were done training. It was like a heavy training. And I was like, man, I guess I got to fucking eat. I was like, yo, I don't really feel good. And then I went to the little convenience store next door. I got some Gatorade, whatever. I fed myself, and it just wasn't going away. And I was like, oh shit, this is like spooking me. And I went home, and at the time I was in New York. I think I had gone back to New York.
Yep.
And I was, because of COVID, they had shut down, so I had to travel 2 hours in order for me to go do jujitsu. So I had to, so I had to take the train back, and I was literally on the train like a wounded animal. Like I had to put my headphones on, and I literally put Zen music on because I was so discomforted that I started panicking that I had to I'm like, yo, relax.
Oh, wow.
Relax. And by the time I got home, I finally calmed down. I was like, okay, thank God.
Yeah.
And then from there, I decided, okay, I'm just gonna. I cut training out. I didn't do any exercise. I went down to like the most simplest diet. I was like, fucking, let me see what I can do. I did elimination diet. I was like, okay, chicken, I would get a reaction. Fish, get a reaction. I started eating steak. Steak was the only thing that wasn't bothering me, which was crazy.
Really?
So yeah, which is that's what everyone says. Yeah. Even Cav says that apparently that seems to be like a thing with the gut, that for whatever reason the red meat and it's carbohydrates, apparently. That's what Cav said.
Yeah, B vitamins.
Yeah. So I kind of reduced everything, and then that's when I went to go see the doctor, and the doctor kind of he's like, yeah, man. He goes, keep it simple, brother. He goes, sounds crazy, but steak and potato.
Yeah.
Like, don't eat anything else other than that. Just allow your stomach to kind of your digestion to kind of average itself out, and then from there you kind of start adding stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, totally off topic of what we were talking about earlier, but the functional medicine thing is it's kind of cool that this whole holistic thing, and even with the fitness industry too.
Yeah.
It seems like the physical therapy is merging a little bit with fitness. The chiropractic and the massage now is merging a little bit with the fitness. Yeah. And hopefully we can kind of tap into that functional medicine, because functional medicine is what? It's mostly diet, right?
Yeah, functional medicine is going to be mostly diet and supplementation. Supplementation is a big part of it, I would say, but yeah, it's kind of those two. I think the supplementation is what separates functional medicine from a nutritionist. You know, I know that's
or dietitian, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're doing a lot of, but you know, in my experience, a lot of what's missed is what you mentioned, which is dysbiosis, right? An imbalance of the gut microbiome. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like the case you were describing, the forest is burned down. And other times it's like, we got to trim some shrubs, like the forest is overgrown, right? Mm. So the problem is people have bacterial overgrowth, and then they take probiotics. Grow. The stomach issue gets worse, and so they start eliminating foods from their diet. But the problem it's not a food allergy. Everyone assumes it's a food allergy. It's lactose, it's gluten. But the problem is a bacterial overgrowth. So what we would do is first we do a stool test. That's the only way. That's the only true way to see your bacterial profile, is do a stool test. So you send in the stool, we see what's overgrown. We go in and we give a supplement that kind of blasts everything back to a low level, and that's when we have to put you on a very basic diet. So then we take them to like the level you were at, right? Your bacteria is low, and so your diet has to be simple. And then we slowly add foods as we add bacteria together. That's kind of the process. So we break it down and then we slowly build it back up. So you were maybe one step into that process is kind of where you entered the system.
Interesting, yeah. So a lot of that, apparently I was listening to this guy, RFK, that was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about how that vaccines, I didn't know that vaccines are basically dosed with some chemical to basically instigate an immune response, because the vaccine isn't absorbed by your body without an extreme immune response. Right. And that extreme immune response causes other possible problems down the road. And one of the things he was saying, he goes, and it's true, I think he's like 70. He's like, dude, I don't remember people having gluten allergies, nut allergies, and it's kind of true. I'm in my 40s, and I think I only knew like one person that had like a nut allergy.
Yeah.
Like no one had allergies the way they have now, and no one had the things that stuff like that. I'm sure there's other factors, but that's like obviously his thing, and it's interesting to kind of hear that perception, that because I didn't know that about vaccines, about the immune response, that the vaccines are not absorbed by the body without an over reaction of the immune system in order for it to be absorbed, and that they literally stick something that's carcinogen, or it's, I forget what the word is. Basically, something to basically irritate the immune system in order for it to be absorbed, and then that causes a whole catastrophic effect in your lifespan. So it was interesting that I was like, wow. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now is just reaction from stuff from 30, 40 years ago.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, because, a vaccine is, you're introducing a foreign agent into the body in hopes of soliciting an immune reaction so that the next time that foreign agent comes in, you've already got the armor ready, right? So you give it a chickenpox vaccine. So you get a little bit of chickenpox, the immune system builds defense to it, so then when you contract chickenpox, you can fight it no problem. But it's not a local immune. It's no different than when you take an anti-inflammatory, right? It's not going to go right to your back.
It's everywhere.
It's a systemic anti-inflammatory. In the same sense, when you give yourself, it's a COVID vaccine, it's varicella, whatever it is, you have a systemic immune response, right? And everyone's immune system's a little different. So I could see how you could develop an immune response for other things, like accidentally give yourself gluten intolerance or lactose intolerance. When you play with the body's going to make you pay that back. You know what I mean? Regardless, if you don't sleep, you're going to pay taxes on that. If you don't eat right, you're going to pay taxes on that. You know what I mean? The body will make you pay for those decisions. So, I don't want to get too much into the vaccine thing, but anytime you're purposefully provoking an immune response, you're running a little bit of a risk for sure.
There's going to be some type of side effect on the body.
Everyone can make their own call on that, but.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily talking about the vaccine. It's just I found it interesting that because it's true. One of the things he said was like, and I remember growing up, like I said, I can't remember anybody that had like gluten. Dude, there's people that are allergic to like ketchup, tomatoes. You're like, what? How you're allergic to ketchup? Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Not only is it allergies, but now, you got a lot more, men hypogonadism, and you've got women's health issues. There's a lot more of these like health issues in this generation. And I don't know if it's just that people were just dealing with it before, and now there's more technology to find it, or if there's something in the environment, or there's something about the current lifestyle that's evoking that. I'm not sure.
Well, what do you think about food now these days? Like food, like how the production of food. Like I know that production of food here in the States is catastrophic. Because like I just finished talking to some girl the other day at the gym, and she did like a whole Euro trip, and she was also in some islands off of Australia. And she goes and she's like, when you travel outside of the United States, she goes, you realize how processed and overdone the food is here in the United States. She's like, because over there the food is it just tastes better. She goes, I wasn't getting any reaction from my digestion or anything like that, and I was like, wow. I was like, man, is it that? And I remember when I went to Colombia. Well, I went to Colombia a little while back, and at the time I was bodybuilding, so I was a gorilla. I was huge, and so the amount of food that I was eating back then, in order for me to maintain that size, was ridiculous. And I remember when I went to go see my dad, and we went to some restaurant or whatever, and I was like, yeah, can I get 2 chicken breasts, because that's kind of what I had every meal for like 4 or 5 times a day. And the chicken breast was like, it was like this small that I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, can I get 5? And it's because they're chickens that are not overproduced. They're like literally from a farm that's like probably like just a few miles out from the restaurant. Yeah. Where here it's like stuff that's over kind of done.
Mutant strawberries, mutant chickens. Yeah.
It's totally true, but it's crazy to me. And I'm glad that there's people like you, the new generation, that's kind of going towards that holistic kind of like route, like you said, where you're kind of taking care of yourself. You're learning how to actually kind of heal yourself, not only physically but hopefully emotionally. Now that hopefully people are getting better at that. Yeah. And then the food thing as well, because I think food is a primary factor for a lot of people's problems.
Yeah. And look, I love food. I'm a foodie. I like going to restaurants and having some, desserts here and there. But I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on the food industry in the U.S. But what I can say is, like your friend said, when I go to Greece, I go to the Greek islands, for example. and you have a big lunch, right? What is it? A big lunch in the States means you better not have any afternoon plans, right? Because you got to sit on the couch, you got to digest, your energy's going to dip, you're going to crash after lunch, right?
Right.
So even in my office, I'm purposefully eating a small lunch because I know if I eat, but you go to Greece, you eat a big lunch, you have a big family meal, and you're actually energized, right? You're feeling the calories and you feel the nutrients, and so you have more energy after a big meal. But I had never felt more energy after a big meal here, right? You go out to dinner, you're ready to go to bed.
That is true.
You go to Greece, you have a big meal, vegetables and fish and beef and pita, and you feel like more energized. And food is energy, right? Food is calories. So why do we feel low energy when we eat a lot of food, right? And so
that is true.
That's
too logical, brother.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the biochemistry, it's like it doesn't make sense. So what else is going on? What's in the food that's crashing us, or what's been taken out of that food in the process of mass production, where we're not getting that, right? We're just kind of filling our body with whatever calories, but we're not benefiting from them. So that's the only thing I can say on that is I have felt that difference also internationally. When you have good food, it's a little different.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah. That's true. So let's tailor back, man. So where's Will at in 5 years? Like, what's the ultimate goal? Well, no, because I'm thinking about it like you're nerding out. You're obviously you're gonna get your PhD. You're already a doctor of chiropractor. Yeah. You're already an acupuncturist. It's like, dude, like, how many hats are you gonna wear? You know, and right now you're in an intimate office. Trying to do your thing. Is there some route, like big goal? Like, what's the big goal? Like, I'm assuming just because you're so athletic that you're probably going to want to try to build a sports center, but you tell me, what are you thinking of doing in the long run?
Yeah. Well, I've gone back and forth on this a little bit. It's obviously one thing that you would consider is opening a big practice, hiring a bunch of doctors, having a gym in the practice. John and I have talked about that because he's going to be an orthopedic doctor.
That'd be a great link up.
Yeah. I just have to convince him to stay in Miami and convince his lovely fiance to stay in Miami also because they're leaving. But for me, I love practice and I'm never going to leave private practice. My patients are always when you graduate, are you going to I'm never going to leave private practice. I get so much fulfillment out of it and I love the day-to-day. But I see myself progressing in academia a bit, becoming a professor, maybe running a lab.
No way.
Yeah, okay. I really enjoy that. I'm never going to step away from private practice, but right now my practice is very stable. I come in, I see my patients, I leave. It's great, it's easy, and I don't love. I don't know if I'm meant to scale a business per se at this time. I'd rather maybe pursue being a professor and doing research. And I love educating and speaking. I'm passionate about that, so I'd like to do a little bit more educating. And again, to me, it's important that I stay in practice because I never want to become like a couch. What is it called? A Sunday couch quarterback or whatever. Where I'm teaching people things that I'm not
actually
implementing.
Doing.
Yeah. So I want to teach people how to help people get out of pain and how to get out of chronic pain. But I need to keep my weapons sharp by being in the practice and being humbled every day in practice by failures, So there's a lot of failures that happen in private practice. You think you're the man and you can fix everything and you can't. So that keeps me humble and so that's kind of what I see professionally. Getting deeper into academia, becoming a professor at a major institution and maintaining my practice.
Interesting. Give me some examples of stuff that you've run into.
That failed?
Yeah. That's interesting to me because it's like you're hyper intelligent. You obviously have a passion for it. Jesus,
yeah.
you love what you're doing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why I think you're also like phenomenal at what you do. But running into the wall sucks, and especially when you genuinely want to help the person and you're like, fuck, I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Again, you're constantly learning things, and fortunately, I'm failing less now than I was 3 years ago, right? Which is a sign of improvement, I think. But it's a funny story. So my very first new patient was a local person in Aventura. Someone called the office like the day before we opened and said, I want to make an appointment. And when you've been a student for like 8 years straight, and then you open your practice, you put all the money that you have into opening the office, and someone calls and is like ready to come in and pay you for your services, you're like over the moon, right? So the guy comes in. I'm ready. Like, I have shadowed the best in the world. I'm a doctor, blah, blah, blah. I got a nice office. Comes in. So the first thing I do is, instead of listening to this patient, right? Tell me why you're here. I'm like telling him everything I know, right? Because that's like when you first start practice, like you want to be like,
I'm the guy.
Yeah, like you don't have authentic confidence, right? That comes with time and experience. So your confidence comes from trying to like show everyone what you know. Right. So I'm just like vomiting information on this guy, and he's like, okay. So I give him some treatment. I say, okay, we're gonna do X, Y, Z. We're gonna fix your thoracic rotation, and we're gonna fix your cervical extension, and we're gonna fix your diaphragmatic breathing. Okay. So the guy pays for the visit. All good. All right, I'm gonna see you in 2 days. And I said, nailed that, right? I'm like having a pizza at night. I'm like, crushed that. First, the guy's he's gonna send me all his family and friends. So 2 days later, come in the office Wednesday. We schedule like 6 p.m. visit. Guy no shows, just doesn't show the visit. And I remember like putting my head on my front desk and just thinking like, I am not cut out. Like I'm never gonna make it. Like I'm gonna fail at this. Like I put everything into this. I moved to Miami. I'm gonna fail at this, right? And like you have a lot of those moments along the way, like where you convince yourself like this is evidence that you're gonna fail, and then like all of a sudden you like pop your head out of the sand, feeling bad for yourself, and like you've reached your goal, right? My goal was to have a practice that was I showed up to work and my schedule was full, and I reached that. That was my first goal. I reached that goal, but there's a lot of those moments where you like feel bad for yourself and you think you're gonna fail, and so that happens a lot. And like I said, my biggest issue early on was me being how I am, a little bit over analytical, which serves me well like in some contexts, but I was doing too much, making the visit about how smart I am, how much I know, how cool I am, and now I just sit back and put my feet up and I say, tell me your story, and I listen, and we keep it simple, and I stay out of my own way, and so that's helped me avoid failure.
What do you think made the difference when you were starting out? Because that's I talk with my boys sometimes. It's like we all have that fear of like whatever product or service that you're having, and it's like I'm good at what I do, but am I?
Yeah, like are people gonna really pay me for this?
Yeah. It's really weird. Like and then you don't know exactly. Okay, like you said, you take a couple steps backwards, and you're like, fuck. Yeah. And you gotta kind of self-analyze and go, okay, I just gotta show up. Yep. Like what do you think that went? Because obviously from my perspective, you're for me, because I know enough. Like I looked at you and I was like, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and he actually cares. But I'm not the normal person. It's the normal person is like you said, the grandmother around the street. She just wants the pain to go away. Yeah. So what do you think like made it so that you can kind of like go through those turbulent like building blocks? Because everyone runs into that. I think when you have the entrepreneur set, it's like you're building a business, and when you've never done it before, like you said, you are book smart, that's great. But the real world is not the books, the book aspect, and you're gonna get punched in the face, and you're like, fuck, so I felt like I did above and beyond. Why is this person not coming through? Yeah. Like, what do you think that made it so that where you got to the point where now you're seeing 20 people a day?
Yeah. Well, I've always tried to become a better clinician along the way. So every time a patient walks in, I pause for like 5 or 10 seconds, and I try to think to myself like this patient's going to get the best version of me that anyone's ever gotten, right? So when regardless, if it's somebody, I have some patients that have been seeing me every week for like since I opened, right? And so it'd be easy to like take them for granted and say, oh, my buddy so-and-so is coming in, we're going to laugh, I'm going to stretch him out. But every time a patient comes in, no matter if it's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, a Dolphins player, or grandma across the street, like I pause for a second. I'm thankful that patient is here and that they're choosing to come see me. And then I just tell myself, like, give this person, they're getting the best version of you, right? Because if you're always improving yourself, then the version of you that's present right now is the best that you've ever been, right? So that mindset has helped me. Like, I just take one thing at a time, and I also am careful not to like over celebrate when things go well, because if you're gonna tell yourself don't be hard on yourself when things don't go well, I think likewise if you have a success, don't over celebrate, because then you're gonna set yourself up maybe for disappointment. So I just I've had like some big days in my career whether it's a big patient or financially a big day. And I walk out of the office, turn the lights out, and I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to be even better. And you do that for years and years, and then it just happens.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that now myself too. It's you just have to do.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's because, like you said, you'll have a good day, and then if you over celebrate, then you're gonna get punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's just gonna happen, and if you celebrate too much on the high, when you get punched in the face, the low is much lower.
Yeah.
And so it's like you said, you have to kind of find that somewhat equilibrium where the high is kind of high and the low is kind of low, so that you can just get up and do, because it's not easy, man. It's just, and that's why a lot of people fail, and it's just because you gotta kind of do. You just have to get up and go, okay, what are the steps that you need to do, and things like that. That's one thing that one of my boys has been kind of teaching me, because he comes from a collegiate sports background, and he calls it the checklist life, where you have to evaluate, and this is the checklist that you got to do. Like, what are the steps that I got to do in order for me to, like, I want to go in that direction. That's the direction I want to go.
Yeah.
And if that's the direction I got to go, what are the steps? And then you start thinking backwards. And then once you think backwards and go, okay, cool, okay, for this next quarter, this next season, I'm gonna follow these steps. And then you just open it up and you just look at the steps every goddamn day. And you just do it, whether you feel like it or not. You're not feeling it, it doesn't matter. You still got to get up and do it. If you're excited to do it even more. And if you're not excited to do it, you still got to fucking do it. But that's the hard part. And what people do is that they just live like day to day, but they don't extrapolate to the future and then kind of pull it back. And that's, I think, where you kind of like come in, because you're already, like, I know you, you're being humble. Like, I know that you've already thought out like the next few years. You already know exactly what school you want to teach at, what lab you might want to teach at. Like I know that you're being humble about it, but you already have it in your mind, and the next thing is you're going to be, let me figure out how I'm going to do it. Okay, I want to teach at this college. Okay, how do I get an internship there? And then how do I get closer to this professor in order for the professor to give me some sign of approval in order for me to be able to
Yeah, no, you're right. I have ideas mapped out, and but yeah, I love what you just said about, like, at the end of the day, like, you have to do, you know what I mean? Like, people, maybe you look at you know, what I've accomplished up to this point, you know, with the practice and the different degrees, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, that's all the result of me just, like, hustling. You know, if you see me on the street, like, I got a backpack, I got a gym bag, I got another bag, I'm sweaty, I have got, like, my lunch bag, you know, I haven't eaten in 3 hours. Like, I've just been running around and hustling and just doing the dirty work. Like, I drive to I drive to Kaiser University, I'm at my office for 9 or 10 hours, just, like, hands-on treating patients. Like, there's nothing really glamorous about what I'm doing, but it's very fulfilling, just day by day. And then when you do hard work for years and years, then eventually you look back and you're like, yeah, I've built a couple of cool things, or I've set myself up for some opportunities. But there's nothing special or glamorous about what I do. I just show up to work and try to do a great job every day.
Yeah, but that's hard. That's a hard mindset to have, man. Especially when you're working for yourself, because when you're working for yourself, it's work, but is it? You know what I mean? It's not like you don't have a boss. You don't have anybody giving you like an outline. So it's like it's easy to, you know, to kind of take the easy route. And it's more like you got to be like, hey, man, you got to give yourself a schedule. You got to give yourself what to do. You got to give yourself in order for you to do it, because it's hard. So it's a difficult process. But then that's where it goes back to, like, you got to kind of do what you enjoy. It's like figure out what you enjoy, because there's going to be times, and I don't know if you found that, but I found that, like, working for yourself, it gets lonely.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like your circle gets smaller.
Yeah.
You outgrow people. It's like you're friends, and you're like, yeah, you're cool and everything like that, man, and I love you. And it's like, if you need me, I'm here for you. But like you're not. There's no value exchange anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's like, and it's like, it's not that I don't care for you. It's just that, like, there's no. I'm giving more than I'm receiving, and then it's like you're no longer, you're not bringing value to the universe, and you're almost kind of dragging me a little bit. And it's hard, you know, and then all of a sudden you go from, like, you know, you have like 10 friends, and then it goes down to 8, and then it goes down to 5, and then it goes down to like maybe 1 or 2, and then
just you and your chihuahua after that.
Yeah, and it's true, you know, you like that, you know, and it's hard to get up and do that daily grind when it's like you're 100% by yourself, and you just gotta, I wouldn't say believe in yourself, you just gotta be, like I said, you gotta enjoy what you're doing, so that you know that eventually it's gonna pay you.
Yeah.
In one way or fashion, whether it's fulfillment or an actual financial, if you're motivated by finances and shit like that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's lonely, especially like in my, like, I do everything in my office. I pick up the phone, I take out the trash, I vacuum, I treat the patients. So it's lonely, but I'm fortunate because I'm working with patients, so I'm never really alone in the office. And I go to my office for my patients. Like, I'm there to serve them. I'm not really there to serve myself. I'm getting paid. It's my livelihood, but I'm there to serve them. Same thing in academia. I'm there to serve my students. I'm doing it to help my career, to make money. But so if you have in your case, right, you work with clients, you have like an audience, around the country. So you're serving all these other people, right? So it's lonely, but there's other people that are involved. You're not like just doing something just for yourself. So it's nice to, you're a servant as well, right? That's part of your job,
Yeah, and I've been learning recently, and I don't know if it's content I'm consuming or the quality of people that I'm like around now better. I feel like it's how much value can you give to the world?
Yeah.
Like, are you waking up and figuring out like what is it that you enjoy doing, and how much can you amplify what that is to the universe? And if you can amplify that to the universe is going to kind of pay you back.
Yeah.
And I never really thought of it that way. And the same thing with even like I was saying earlier with the relationships. I said this in the previous podcast. I was telling them it's there's got to be a curated circle that you got to kind of work on, because you got to be around other people that like you're doing very well. But I'm sure that you would want someone that is on the same level as you, if not better than you, that kind of you look at and go, damn, am I doing enough?
Yeah.
And sure. and then that pushes you to kind of push your level up even more, which is great. But you got to curate that process. Like I was telling one of these cats that's here with us today, is I was like, hey man, I'm trying to bring people into the fold with me that goes like, hey, we're all on this mission, we're all headed in this direction, but there's only a few people that can actually come along for the ride. Like, are you the right fit for us in order for us to be able to kind of lean on each other and go, hey, don't be lazy. Like, this is what I'm doing, and there's nothing, at least for me, there's nothing better that someone comes to me and be like, yo, this is what I did today. And you're like, holy shit, I'm lazy. I need to get my ass moving.
Yeah. Sometimes you need that. Yeah, it's good.
For me, that's what I need. And I kind of do that with jiu-jitsu as well. Like, sometimes I don't realize, like I was rolling with Venetius Tractor the other day, bro. It's just, the guy literally treats me like a child. like rolling with the guy as a child. But then I don't realize that, bro, the guy's like number 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Number 6 in the world in jiu-jitsu. So it's like in my mind, I'm like, man, I suck at jiu-jitsu. But then when you roll with someone like that, you're like, well, do I really suck at jiu-jitsu, or is there levels to this, and I just need to step up my level? Yeah. And that's really what it is. And that kind of applicable to life. And that's kind of one of the, I think, the allures of combat sports. It's because it's an individual sport, but the only person that you can lean on is yourself. And you got to put people around you, like the iron sharpens iron. Yeah. You got to be around other monsters to kind of make you better, you know?
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And, early on in my career, I was focused on, mentors in my field, right? Who are the best chiropractors in the world? Who's the best trainer in the world? Who's the best PT in the world? But as you get older, you realize, like, it doesn't really matter what the person is world class at. I can learn something from the best CEO in the world, the best basketball player in the world, the best artist, right? So you can kind of like learn something from everybody, right? Because everybody's exceptional at something for the most part, right? Everybody's got some. So I try to, and books come into play as well, right? You can read books about, who's the best in the world at this, and then you can apply those traits to your own life, your own job. Life is about, like, it's not about idolizing somebody. It's about taking a little piece of this person, a little piece of this person, a little piece of this person, and then and gluing it together with your own glue in the way that you want to. So that's what I try to do is take a little bit from people who I value and who I admire, and add little pieces to myself, take little pieces out that maybe need to go, and that's how you do it.
That's the hard part, is letting go of stuff.
Yeah. Like you said, whether it's friends or whether it's bad habits you've got or a lifestyle choice that you have, you got to make room for the new puzzle piece, right? So you got to take one piece out. You can't just overfill it.
I like that. That's it. You got to make room for the new puzzle piece. Yeah. I like that. All right, brother. So before you head out, I don't know if you want to talk to the camera, tell everybody where to find you. Obviously, it's Miami Spine and
Performance. Yeah. Dr. Will Adams, Miami Spine and Performance. My office is in Hollywood, Florida. I put content on Instagram and YouTube. I try to put educational stuff out there. So if you're in the area, you need care, I'm happy to help you. Or if you just want to like learn some cool things about rehab and back pain, you can follow my YouTube or Instagram also.
Sounds good, brother. Anyways, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Until the next time, if you haven't already, make sure you follow us. Make sure you tag somebody that might benefit from this information. And share the stuff, man. We're trying to educate the combat sports industry community in order to take care of their bodies, because most of you guys don't do a good job. You know how to beat each other up, but don't take care of yourselves. So remember, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, especially when it comes to combat sports. And for those of you that are brand new to jiu-jitsu, that are white belts, realize it takes 10 to 15 years to get a black belt, and you're gonna get hurt. So going to see someone like Will Adams, Dr. Will Adams, is going to benefit you, because you can do preventative medicine as well as if there's an acute injury of some sort, he can help you out. The idea, again, is for you to learn how to take care of yourself, guys. So I appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, thanks a lot.
Thanks.